webinar on new vistas in advertising. Friends, this is the fifth in the series of webinars we have been having the UPES School of Modern Media. As you know, UPES is one of the premier universities in this part of the world. And this year, we are launching the School of Modern Media, wherein we are focusing on not just cutting edge technology, but also a lot of rich content which would be curated, which would be guided by eminent stalwarts, two of whom are joining us today. We are going to not just talk about conventional, traditional media, but also at the School of Modern Media, we will be looking at new avenues, new opportunities. We want to prepare, groom our students for futuristic roles in media. We are looking at integrated newsroom, convergence media. We are looking at a lot of integration wherein they will be equally adept in print, in electronic, as also web technology. This apart, with regard to other aspects of media, such as advertising, public relations, digital marketing, CSR, event management, again, we are going to have specialists who will be teaching these courses at our institution. We have a great advisory panel, and we have an eminent, board of studies, which includes the who is who of the industry and academia. We are delighted to have these people on our webinars also. And today we are going to talk about new vistas in advertising. Without talking much about, or without coming in between you and the experts, let me straight away come to our subject today, and that is advertising. Friend, over the last couple of days on television, in print, you would have seen this advertisement, let's advertise. It's by the International Advertising Association, who really want to give a big push to advertising, because they feel that that can boost our economy. That advertising is the only way which can lead to revival of our economy. So advertising alone can bring the consumers back to the market, because there is a reluctance today on the part of the consumer to spend money. So consumers need to come out, and only advertising can connect the consumers to their favorite brands. So this is very important. So we will be talking about all this, the future of advertising, and what are the avenues and opportunities for young students in advertising. And joining me today on this great panel are two of the most respectable names in the world of advertising. I have with me Dr. Jaishri Jethwaney. Professor Jethwaney did a doctorate from the School of International Studies, JNU, on media and elections. She did her master's in political science from Hindu College, PG diploma in advertising and public relations from the RP Institute of Mass Communication, New Delhi. She went to New South Wales for her fellowship in public relations, and she had a long stint at the Indian Institute of Mass Communication. During her tenure there, she in fact nurtured, groomed, today perhaps the leaders of the advertising industry who are today holding key positions in the advertising sector have all been groomed by her. And she is an author. She was professor and program director, and she is now with the Institute for Studies in Industrial Development, a public funded national level policy think tank. And also she is project director of ICSSR research on portrayal of women in promotional media and possible areas of intervention. She has been a lead communication expert for many national and international consultancies in the social sector arena. And as I said, she has designed and anchored more than 150 training programs. She has trained senior officers of armed forces, IAS officers. She has been on the visiting faculty of the National Judicial Academy, LBS National Academy of Administration, Missouri. And among her many books, she has authored When India Votes, social sector communication, corporate communication, public relation management, and advertising management. And contributor in the Sage Encyclopedia on Corporate Reputation in 2016, and contributed chapters in several books. I can go on and on. She's an encyclopedia in herself. And we are really privileged and honored to have, not just in this webinar, my dear young friend, she is also in the board of our studies at the School of Modern Media. We are indeed honored, and I was really privileged to be her colleague at the Indian Institute of Mass Communication. Thank you. Thank you, Professor. My second guest today is Mr. Avijit Dutt. I'm sure you would have recognized him by now. Avijit Dutt is a name which is familiar to me, who is associated with ads, film, creativity, theater. Well, Avijit is a filmmaker, actor, theater director, writer, communication consultant. He lives in Delhi. He took his MA from Calcutta University in English and began his career as a senior English master in Darjeeling. He has been the creative director of Lintas Advertising and president marketing of the Olive Telecom. He is currently the director and chief motivator of Enable Advisory and Intervention and Advisory Board at MoMagic. He has made socially relevant films that are lucky enough to draw attention to problems and in a few cases resulted in legislative action. His latest Akkad Bakkad on child abuse was shown at the Parliament and at the Cannes Film Festival. He has acted in over 25 feature films, including People Live, No One Killed Jessica, Gandhi to Hitler as Gandhi, Ladies versus Ricky Bell, Madras Cafe, Second Best Exotic, Marigold Hotel, and Jolly LLB 2, etc. He has directed and acted in over 150 theatre productions in English, Hindi, in India, Singapore, Dubai, and the US. His 5 full-length plays have all been staged in Delhi, and 2 of them were at the Rang Mahotsav of the NSD Annual Theatre Festival in Delhi. He is perhaps the only actor with 2 patent applications in sanitation and healthcare. An academically inclined artist, if I may use that term. And to introduce him, and again, I was privileged to have him as a visiting faculty during my tenure as Director General at the Institute of Mass Communication. Welcome, Mr. Dutt. Siddharth, can I request you to kindly show a film to introduce Mr. Dutt and his mastery to our audience? Well, believe me, I have seen it. And this is not just in films. I've seen it at Indian Institute of Mass Communication also. I felt the classrooms looked so familiar, so similar. And I've seen similar scenes at IIMC also, where he receives the adulation of the students, the love and affection of the students. He's hugely loved by the student community. Well, on that note, thank you, both the panelists, and let's begin straight away. In the meantime, I would request, this is also being broadcast live on Facebook, UPES Facebook page, and on our YouTube channel. And those of you who are unable to join can join us there also, and also watch later on. Friends, let me now begin straight away with Professor Jethwaney. Professor Jethwaney, what are the career opportunities in advertising? Because we are primarily addressing an audience who are aspirants, who would like to make a career in advertising, in public relation. Most of the students who have joined us today. So if you enlighten them about the career opportunities in advertising, because is it only about creative? What are the other opportunities that are available? Broadly, if you can talk about it very briefly. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Professor Suresh, first of all, for the very generous introduction which you gave me. And I really appreciate that the students who are the turning point of their life, you know, when we were there, when we passed out school, there was nobody to tell us where to go. And here a school is thinking of, you know, telling the students the various ways. I really appreciate that, Professor Suresh. Now, advertising, as you know, is some people call it is a dream profession, and some people think that advertising is nothing but they try to the fleece people. And in fact, you know, if you look at advertising per se, if you look at the whole industry, in India, we have about 1 lakh crore worth of advertising business. The industry is as big as that. And if you look at the brands, if you look at the advertising industry per se, 1990s was a period when we had the globalization of our economy. So almost all major names in advertising industry, they came to India. And today, if you look at the advertising scene in India, 5 major conglomerates, they have almost 75 to 80% of advertising control in the entire world. So this can be seen in 2 ways. One is that the advertising has become global, which is on boundaries, that there are no artificial geographical boundaries. So students who join a course in advertising are also exposed to international strategies, international advertising communications, so on and so forth. So advertising is creative, we all know that, but advertising, probably anyone who passes out a course in advertising, maybe at a master's level or at undergrad level, and I think we are talking to students who are just passed out from school. So this probably is the only profession which gives you more than one avenues. If you are, good at interaction, if you are good at business, so you can join the account servicing. If you have the creative, streak in you, you can be a creative writer. If you are good at number crunching, you can get into media planning. If you're a good researcher, so all that is taught in any course in advertising. And let me tell you, there are about 300 universities and institutes in India which teach advertising, either as a subject, as a part of mass communication, which includes journalism, or there are independent exclusive courses in advertising, both at undergrad and postgrad levels. So I understand UPES is going to have an independent course in advertising. So obviously it will be pretty its scope will be much wider. And besides teaching all these 3-4 avenues which I told you, I'm sure you're going to give a little stress on production also. So the students can have one more area where they can go, like voiceovers, production of jingles, so on and so forth. So I think it's a very good idea to introduce the subjects to students who must be indecisive, because it's very difficult to know which way to go, to be or not to be. You know, they are at the crossroads. So I'm sure they'll have some learning from this webinar.
Thank you, Professor, for those insights. I'm sure that students are already there. I have started receiving questions. Please feel free to ask your questions. We will be taking up towards the end of the session. Now, let me come to Dutt Sahab. Dutt Sahab, you have been there for a long time now. And how have you seen the changes occurring, in the advertising world? And today you are looking at, even at artificial intelligence and machine learning and all that aspects. So your journey, if you can take us through that in the world of advertising.
Right. When I joined the business in 80s, it was already quite developed business. What it meant was that we were already working with international companies that were beyond the horizons of India had their offices in India. And we were moving towards a greater common language, so to say, of advertising. However, we had not as yet developed an Indian advertising ethos as such. In the 90s, I think that started coming around. And by 2000, we were happily cohabiting with international advertising and Indian advertising, which was pushing stuff like what we know as Indian English or Indian English, etc. in language terms. But the bigger change, I think, has been around in the media sense. With the explosion, as Dr. Jethwaney was telling you about, with the explosion of the media in the 90s, and with this increasing bouquet of cable televisions, suddenly there were opportunities which we had not seen before. From a single channel television, which was Doordarshan, we were suddenly looking at television channels from the world over. And we were looking at advertising, which was from the world over. It was no more a closed world. It was suddenly an open environment. With that, we started being challenged by we had to put out ourselves. Boundaries of learning, boundaries of understanding. Gradually, this whole business of advertising was spanning a far greater audience base. It was not just looking at the cities. First came the B towns. The B towns were being embraced. Gradually, it was the entire country that was being embraced. And as you know, our country is of various diverse cultures, languages, everything. All of them had to be addressed by our advertising voice. This was definitely a certain amount of media questions that were raised on where and how to reach across till into the mobile phones. And suddenly, the world of advertising changed in that we were looking at content even in this real estate. But by looking at this real estate, on the back end, what was happening was people were able to be lesser intrusive while being far more informed. Because from the heart of the phone, you could get information that could be looked at by artificial intelligence, and you had a clear idea of who you wanted to speak to and how to reach that person. That change has been most remarkable.
Thank you for taking us through that very, important journey. I don't think that people were involved right from the beginnings, the initial days to the current scenario, and we are fortunate to have you with us. Professor Jethwaney, now coming straight to the questions. You have been involved not just with IIMC, but you have been a mentor, guide for so many media institutions. And, what is it that you find, because you had, being at IIMC, yes, you crafted, you created a benchmark course, but the fact remained that, it still remained a diploma program, not a bachelor's or a master's program. It had its limitations. So what do you think, what do you find rather lacking in advertising courses in media institutions?
Well, the news is both good and bad. Things are improving, but I feel that whether it's a diploma course or at the undergrad or postgrad level, generally there's stress on the skills, not on knowledge per se. It's very important for students to be trained into the theoretical construct. It's very important to introduce them to the various models, paradigms, theories, and not necessarily of advertising, even though if you don't understand, I mean, the skill doesn't give you enough, knowledge to just become a good advertiser. So it's very important not only to be, given a conceptual framework. Skills are very important, but also it's very important to sensitize the students about various issues. Recently, we finished this ICSR research on portrayal of women in advertising, and we found that more than 80% advertising was, whether it was for rural audience or for urban audience. So you found that they were disrespectful to women, and you found that women were shown as, people with less brain, lower in social hierarchy. So it's very important that students, when they are in school, they are sensitized about issues relating to portrayal, about the religion, about the multiculturalism, about, like as Avijit said, that India is not just one country, so many countries. There are so many kind of cultures, languages, sensitivities. So it's very important for any communicator, whether you become an advertising person or a journalist or a PR person, to be very knowledgeable about these things, So I find that this is what is lacking as of now. At the university level, when, there are theorists who teach them, so they're not really theorists from advertising or sociology. The problem is very different in universities. At institution level like IMC, we got a lot of people from the industry, but these industry people are extremely good at giving them the craft, giving them the skills, but not really theory per se. So you need a good amalgamation.
So you need a strong theoretical foundations. Strong conceptual understanding is very important. Absolutely. So what do you think that for a youngster, because we have a lot of youngsters who are today with us in the program, what should they look forward, when you actually, they decide on a media college, what is it that they should be looking at while deciding on a college of their choice? Professor Jethwaney?
Yes, it's very important that they should do a little bit of research. Now in India, you don't really have the rating system per se. They've just started, probably they don't have. So it's very important. I personally feel these courses in communication are as good as the faculty. So they must look at the kind of faculty who has joined, the kind of people who are giving the leadership in those schools. The rest follows, the rest comes, in place. So it's very important for, and also how much the institute is ready to invest in infrastructure, in creating that, labs, studios, and also software. That's very important. So it's very important for them to take a kind of a tour, even if it is a virtual tour of the schools, they keep in mind. But anyone, I would like to conclude by saying that anyone who wants to join advertising, I really don't know when did they decide to join advertising. To me, it's very important to take that call. It is a passion, not just a profession. So if you're very passionate about, the field, only then join. And I can assure you, you said that a lot of students are in leadership position, and one has to have a lot of patience if you want to get into any communication business. It may not be very paying in the beginning, but my students who might have started at 500 or 2,000 rupees as their initial pay, now they end up earning crores of rupees in a year. But they had the patience, they had the creativity, they were able to give, to the profession. So that's what's very important.
Absolutely, absolutely, Professor. That's why we at UPES have a school wherein we have eminent people like you to guide us, and also we have the best of infrastructure and the sylvan surroundings of the Himalayas, to give you that kind of an atmosphere, because that's also important for a very creative profession like advertising. Coming to you, Mr. Dutt, you have been part of both academia and industry. I mean, you have been a visiting teacher at institutions. Now, obviously, you have been involved in the hiring process also at many places. What is it that you look for in an advertising professional? Like when I'm looking for a journalist, you know, I look at a nose for news, his language skills, his general knowledge, his awareness, his analytical skills. That's what I look for in a journalist. Now, what do you look for in an advertising professional?
Fortunately, like Dr. Jethwaney mentioned, advertising is so many different departments that you're not really looking for one person who represents all those talent sets. So if you're hiring for creative, you're looking for a different kind of a person. If you're hiring for copywriting within creative, you're looking at a different kind of a person. A media person has to answer a completely different set of queries, and so on. But all of them ask for that one uncommon thing, common sense. So long as you've got that, you got loads of good ahead of you. But importantly, I think what Professor Jethwaney and Professor Suresh talked about, but I don't think we give it enough importance because these are people who have already done it in their institutes. The visiting professor concept is something which traditionally should not be. However, what happens is when an aware person leads the ship, she or he gets visiting lecturers to come in and talk about their area. Therefore, even while the theoretical base work is given to the student, the visiting lecturers give that edge to them of being at the front, so to say, of how to really interact with a client, of how to get a brief, of how to attack the brief, of how to carry a team, and so on. So these, I think, play a crucial role. And ultimately, when you're looking for an advertising professional, you're looking for a team player who has the passion to drive themselves inordinately hard for hours that don't keep to the clock.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for those great tips. I'm sure that, yes, yes, Professor, you would like to add something?
I'll just add what Avijit said. I remember once, I think O&M head had come to the institute, it was an orientation program, and one of the guys asked him, sir, what kind of person do you look for when you hire? And he said something very interesting, which was quite a news to me. He said, we look for students or look for people who are risk-taking. You have to be a risk taker, otherwise you can never think beyond the obvious. How do you think about the out-of-box ideas, or even, you have to be a risk taker.
No risk, no gains.
No risk, no gains, yes. Yes.
Right. Thank you. Professor, you have also, from an academic point of view and through your interactions with the industry, you have seen how advertising has changed over the years. How has advertising changed, particularly with reference to the digital age, with the advent of digital media in a big way? How has it changed? Can you throw some, because we are the school of modern media, where we are going to look at conventional, yes, but alongside, even in advertising, we are going to look at it from a futuristic point of view. We are going to use animation, we are going to use visual effects, we are going to have all those aspects, AI. So if you can throw some light on that.
Yes. We has really changed the world, the way we look at the world. Out of about 7.6 billion people in the world, I think more than 2/3 people are, attached to the digital world. And there's a lot of user-generated content which is there. People are very active on the digital media, especially the youngsters. If you look at now, this COVID period, I was looking at the BARC, the data which says that more and more people got their news and information through the digital media and also through the mobile. So print media really suffered, and TV, of course, yes. So they might even, the youngsters, they might like to watch a, Netflix, or watch a film, but not necessarily through the medium of television. They go to the internet and then they watch. But as far as the advertising is concerned, it's more interactive now, being on a digital. It's more experiential. And also you find there are a lot of endorsements on the social media. It has both, legal and ethical ramifications. I think Avijit can tell you more because he's into now digital advertising. But I think that is the future. Like it or not, that is the future of advertising. If you see the way it is growing, now it's almost, it might even take over very soon print. Print used to be number one. Now it is number two after television. Unfortunately, if you look at now, the print is really, really gone down, and digital has a future. That's what I feel. The rest, I think Avijit can tell you more about, because he's into digital advertising.
Avijit, would you like to add anything?
Definitely. What happens is the two behemoths, which is Facebook and Google, they know where you have been, what you have eaten, what you have shopped. Now, that is dangerous, to put it mildly. Let me take you completely away from it all. In the just about 2003 or 4, I think, Hindustan Times asked me to do a campaign, to write a campaign, saying that Hindustan Times could be read on the digital medium. After I got the brief, I said, look, I know you're going to be paying me very well for it, but why are you doing this? This is harakiri. You're talking about your own death in your newspapers, because that is the way forward. When I would go into a class and I would say, how many of you have read the newspaper? In the 90s, it depressed me that each year it was getting lesser. Suddenly, there was a turnaround in the 2000s when more and more people would be saying, we've read it today, sir. Then came the next question, where did you read it? So we accessed it digitally. Now, today what happens is, to access a user, we need permissions. However, it is all a little gray. For instance, a company that is tied up with the original equipment manufacturers, that is the people who make the phones or people who make the chipsets, they can access a great amount of information from the chipset level, which is even beyond what a carrier like a Vodafone or an Airtel or a Jio, the kind of information that they can glean of a user is far lesser than what an original equipment manufacturer can get. And the trick around it is that the moment you're buying a phone, you're giving very deep approvals for them to access the information. So it is legally correct. Now, you know the sex of the person, you can figure out the income of the person, you start getting through the latitude and longitude, you know where the person is coming from, what is their shopping habit, what is their travel habit. Now, with that 360-degree information, you're able to target far, far effectively, far more effectively than ever before. And this, I think, is the greatest boon in a way, greatest in a way, but definitely digital medium is where it is at in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. It has, it's a double-edged sword. with citizens becoming extremely active and more literate, more aware of their rights, consumer rights becoming, a very strong movement. I think that that is also, people do question the credibility of ads. Yes.
May I, sorry. Because you mentioned consumer rights, in 2004, we got the account for Ministry of Consumer Affairs. And the Secretary Consumer Affairs was willing to spend, I think, 5 crores at that time. 5 crores to my mind was nothing. It was piffle, considering the fact that, I'll just take one example, excuse me mentioning a brand, but Mars, when they were not selling or had gone beyond their buy date, they would dump it all in India, in the villages, in the bee towns, and they were being bought indiscriminately. So I went to the secretary with 7 campaigns and proceeded to show her one by one. And as she said, this is very good, I tore up the campaign. Mm-hmm. By the time I was on my 3rd, she said, why are you insulting me? I said, why are you insulting my people? Do you think with 5 crores we'll be able to do anything? Well, to cut the long story short, we went to the Planning Commission, the secretary, myself, and an economist, and somebody from media, and we got 225 crores for year 1, and Jago Grahak Jago was born. I'm very happy to quote that it still runs. Yes. In between, I think Prasoon or somebody had come along and decided to change it. They changed it and went back to Jago.
I know. We conducted a study on that at IMC. I don't want to reveal the outcome.
Fantastic.
Because our communication research department had done a study on that.
Right.
Okay. Now let me come to that good old question, which has always, Avijit, I would like to begin with you. Is creativity inborn, or does it come through training? I mean, these days I'm conducting a workshop at UPES on voiceovers, and with me, one of the most sought after names in voiceover, Mr. Subhashankar Chatterjee is with me. He tells me, no, you don't need to be born with a great voice. Amitabh Bachchan was rejected. So, you need a lot of training. Is it the same so far as advertising is also concerned? Are you born with it, or can it be, inculcated?
I'm terribly sorry to differ with most people, but I think advertising creativity is something not for everybody. Not everybody can think when you stick up a car on a hoarding and say, Araldite also sticks broken teapots. Not everybody can immediately come to that kind of an idea. This ideas person, I think, is a bit of an oddball, is a little different. And all amounts of training, finally, can make a horse with a hump, but it does not become a sea of the desert camel, or ship of the desert camel. So one can train the skills and make them better, but I think there are some people who are for creative, and there are so many other lines in advertising that you could get into. And maybe after some time you realize that I was working as an account executive, but all the work that I'm getting, I've been writing better copy for it. Yes. You could make a parallel.
But except for copywriting, right. I think for all other jobs in advertising, you can be trained to be.
Absolutely.
Client servicing, media planning and all that.
Yes, definitely.
And even
yes, Professor.
Even on creativity, I would say, It's not like writing a poetry or a prose or
not at
doing
all.
a painting. To me, advertising creativity is driven by marketing objectives.
Yes.
Teamwork. You know, the consumer insights come from the account planning department, and you see a number of campaigns where the insights drove creativity. I remember a very interesting campaign by Airtel, Har Ek Friend Zaruri Hota Hai. Imagine, and their marketing objective was to, expand the market by 15-20%. Now, how do you show Har Ek Friend Zaruri Hota Hai? If I were to ask you how many friends you have, probably it will be 5 or 6. So look at the situation the creative guy created. जब आपको नकल करनी होती है तो आपका दोस्त आपके पीछे नहीं बैठा होता. So there's a guy who's sitting, so he is also a friend. There's a guy who generally gives a missed call. He doesn't want to spend a penny on you. This guy has met with an accident, and this guy said, "Police ko phone karo," and he give him a missed call, and police is going to call you anyways. So you're trying to say, "Har ek friend zaruri hota hai." It means that and how do you network? How do you make through Airtel? So it was driven by marketing objectives. So I would say, of course, ideation is very important, but then the teachers, people like, I've seen Avijit, he's being very modest. I've seen him in IMC and he started teaching even before I joined IMC. The way he ideates with the students, you have to see to believe. Once I remember, if you recall, he came from the rear door of the class and was wearing a shawl on his head. And he comes and stands back and he said, what did you think that who came? Nobody realized was the teacher. So he's a great, the students can learn ideation if you have teachers like Avijit and Sam Rufus is another person.
Absolutely.
So
I of course, look forward to his guiding our students at UPES also.
Yes, you must take him for workshops. Yeah.
Love to.
How, like we often say that, once upon a time, journalists were never prepared or groomed at media schools. Some of the topmost journalists in the country, not today, of say post-independence era or pre-independence era, were never trained in journalism, but they became great journalists. But with the change of technology, television, digital media, today you need certain skill sets. How important is it for advertising professionals also to attend a media school, to join the profession? A professor?
It's very important. You can't do without it. You can't do without it. You have to be in a media school, understand the P's and Q's. It's very important. The grooming is there. You just cannot, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, when we were, fighting for independence, when Gandhi was a journalist, he was be able to write very good, but he was able to put his point across. The whole idea, the whole purpose was different. Nowadays, you cannot become a professional unless until you've gone through the professional mill. So, they think they can become great writers or advertisers. No, schools are very important. That's what I feel. And good schools are more important.
Absolutely, yes. Avijit, you see an increasing convergence in media newsrooms. We hear about integrated newsrooms. We hear about convergence media and all that, wherein you are bringing together the print, the electronic, the digital. So today you have a television journalist who has to broadcast a story and simultaneously he has to file a story for the web edition. Simultaneously, he has to send tweets also, so all those things are expected. He is no more accompanied by a huge crew of OB vans and cameramen. He has to carry a mobile phone and he has to do his own recording, his own shooting, and his own transmission. So that is what is expected. Now, do you see that kind of a synergy happening in advertising, public relations, and digital marketing, an integration, a convergence of all the three?
Is it to me?
Avijit can start and then.
Thanks.
Yes.
Like Dr. Jethwaney was saying a while before, it is by training at the better institutes that your basic skill set is ready. Now, when you go out into the business, you suddenly find that you thought you had trained for only creative, but suddenly when you meet the client, the client feels that you are bringing much more to the table than just the account executive. So you start doubling up in that. You give the ideas on PR that PR takes forward. So there is a great amount of coming together of all the various sciences in the industry for the successful advertising personality. I remember this friend of ours, Ajay, who is now Ajay Shukla, who went out to Afghanistan with a camera and a mobile phone when Afghanistan was being locked down. This was in the war when the Russians had left and the Americans had come in. And he was single-handedly shooting, editing, broadcasting, and uplinking. But that was only just the beginning. And today, more and more people are doing that in our world today. Similarly, and in advertising, we have found the creative person becoming the managing director of the company. We find that they are able to derive far greater profits. They are able to motivate people more. The media person moving into servicing and into creative, all this is happening all the time. And they are not strange marriages.
Professor, would you like to add anything?
Yes, I'll explain it differently. There's a concept of IMC, Integrated Marketing Communication. Even more and more companies from the corporate side, they don't have advertising or PR departments per se, they have IMC departments. And a client is very important as far as advertising agencies are concerned, where the last word is with the client. And you find why PR or corporate communication, how it synergizes when you're launching say a product. So a soft launch through public relations, by third party endorsement, journalists writing about it, that has a better impact than a straight away brand advertising. If you remember when Maruti was launched years ago in 1985, the entire exercise was public relations. Then the concept of IMC was not even known. And sometimes when a brand is in a soup, is in a crisis, you've seen Kit Kat, you've seen so many, even Maggie, Nestle. So PR came to their rescue. And when they were coming back to the market, so they did not use the classic media, but the digital media, just trying to, incite people that we are back, So nowadays, nobody talks about advertising, PR, publicity separately. They're all part of the same science or art, as Avijit said. It has to be taken together.
Thank you. Thank you. Very important insights. Today, you cannot look at just creativity, in an isolated way. You cannot commercialize anymore. It has to be an integrated approach that has to be there in the curriculum also. And that's what we are trying to, do at UPS.
And I'll just add one more point. If you see the COVID as now, Amul is always, they ask a lot of fun, very interesting ads, but they got into a little bit of criticism because one of the ads said, Wuhan se le aaye. So the picture was, or the graphics was the students who came from Wuhan with masks and all. So probably it was again a tongue-in-cheek kind of a comment that Wuhan se le aaye. Iska matlab kya aap infection le aaye ya Wuhan se apne bachchon ko le aaye. So it was not taken very kindly, and digital media was the place that was being, played like a football. So it became a PR issue for the company. So you can't run away from PR or Corpcom in advertising.
Absolutely. Avijit, there are also associated professions associated with it. You have voiceover artists, you have actors, you have ad film production. These are all associated with advertising, and you have been part of that. Can you share some thoughts on that, which is strictly not in advertising, but yet it is an integral part of advertising? Those aspects also, if you can, because we at UPS are going to focus on these aspects also, because we are going to have a state-of-the-art studio. We are going to groom people in these disciplines also. That's going to be our focus. So if you can kind of share some thoughts.
Even in these days when everything is locked down and you're not getting any calls for a play or a film or a web series, I was doing a voiceover this morning, recording it and sending it out. The affiliated arts, so to say, have grown at a tremendous speed. The OTT over-the-top invasion of the Netflix, the Amazon Prime, and already a host of 7, 8 different, maybe some will drop out, etc. This is a huge, huge asset base that has grown. And this is all within the last 4 years. It's not really so old at all. What it does is it throws up great amount of possibilities and potentials for people who are coming into the communication industry. The voiceover industry is a huge industry now. At one time, it was just an affiliate service, but it is now an industry. There are audibles, that is the books which are read out and it goes out as an audible, which is part of a commercial experience and experiment, doing extremely well. There are very many opportunities for filmmakers. They can be doing advertising films which have incredibly huge budgets. You would be flabbergasted to know the budgets. Then you have documentaries that can be made. I have been fortunate in that a few of my documentaries have been done at the right time in the right place and actually brought about legislative change. So there are all these, let's say, surrounding media, which is open to somebody who gets trained at a school of modern communication like UPES.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Now, Professor Jethwaney, and I'm sure there are many questions also in this regard, which we would be taking up after a few minutes. Post-corona, an economic slowdown is predicted. Rather, it is already there. There is a slowdown. You don't see much advertisements. In fact, that's why the International Advertising Association had to come up with this entire campaign. But do you see the ad industry coming back with a bang? Because ultimately, the consumer has to be brought back to the marketplace, So do you see that happening, or do you think that it would be for some time, it would be a recession for the ad industry also? Or will it be an impetus rather, this reluctance on the part of the consumer to spend? You need to provoke him to spend.
The initial shock, and why they are a little shocked, I really don't know. To me, expenditure in advertising is an investment, it's not an expenditure. So when you spend money on advertising, you are investing into the brand. You cannot be just sitting quiet. So this is a little unfortunate. But as far as advertising per se is concerned, during the COVID times, you find a lot of advertisements are coming, but on COVID. In fact, the states have, I think they run into hundreds of hours. But the brand advertising has taken a back seat. As high time, you already said the ball rolling by telling about the international campaign, let's advertise. They must do it. And also, if they do not advertise, because advertising subsidizes the media, the newspapers. Imagine the state of newspapers now. There's no subscription, there's no revenue, and they are into a very terrible condition. In fact, I was reading the other day, they are losing about 2,000 crores every month. And imagine the predicament of the small and medium newspapers. So advertisers, they need media to reach out to their target audience. So it suits them to continue advertising. But for example, God forbid, if there are no newspapers or there are less number of newspapers, how would they reach the team? Because you cannot do without advertising. The mediated communication, you need a vehicle. So it's high time to think about it and start advertising. And who's advertising? Big business houses. So even if they think that, they are not able to sell as much as they're advertising, I think it would be a good decision to continue doing it. That's what I feel. It is a
How do
simple
you look at it,
economics.
Avijit?
If I may just
How
add,
do you look at the, what is your prediction?
if I may add to what Jaishri was saying, really, Maruti cut down its production by 98%.
They had zero sales in April.
Correct. So they cut down their production by 98%. There was practically no advertising happening. However, India as a country has the maximum amount of sales starting August, September, which peaks at the festive season, which is around Diwali, etc. And this is the period when advertising starts taking this market forward. I'm happy to note that Maruti has just begun its digital campaign, and like Professor Jethwaney was saying, they are taking a decision to invest in the brand. Definitely hoping that people will be turning back into the brands and coming back to the buying.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm sure that, it's you have an optimistic outlook, and I'm sure, that optimism prevails, and the industry realizes the importance of advertisements to, bring the economy back on the rails. That's the critical role advertisements are going to play. So before now, it's time, the questions have started pouring in, we make it up. But before that, one last question to both of you. Tips to be a successful advertising professional, both creative and on the other aspect. Professor Jethwaney?
All right. In any field, when you want to be successful, it's very important to be a thought person, a thought leader. It's very important to be knowledgeable. I feel that when they join this course, it's not that they're just reading books on advertising. They should know a little bit of everything of something. So they must know how the country works, how the polity works, how the socio-economic systems work, how our caste system works, how our religions work. So they have to be, an avid reader of and voracious reader of books and media. Let them watch even trash. In fact, that anybody who wants to get into communication, 3 to 4 hours of advertising of television watching is a must. Not only news, but even trash. You must know even how the popular culture is doing. Even if it's the soap operas which we criticize, it's very important. So anyone who wants to be successful has to be knowledgeable. He has to be smart. His reflexes have to be very sharp, and should have a good interest in people and institutions. That's what I feel.
Avijit?
Yeah. I think one needs to be agile, deep, but not showing the world how much you know. Agile. What I mean by that is have the ability to move from subject to subject with as much deep understanding of it as if you were from the industry. We went to present at Maruti and we were presenting for their after sales, which was something completely new. Halfway through the presentation, Mr. Bhargav, who was their chairman, managing director at that time, turned around and said, "Are you from the automobile industry?" I said, "No, sir, I'm from," meaning we have to educate ourselves. So have the agility to jump from here to there with as much knowledge base as you know, as you can get together. Be on top of subjects and definitely on top of yours, yet have the humility to hear people out. Listen. Don't just hear, listen, because that is going to give you a clue of where your buyer is at, where your market is, and what are people saying around you.
Absolutely. Keep your eyes and ears open. Adaptability, flexibility, and inquisitiveness to learn. You have to be a constant learner. That's very important. Coming from the masters, Professor Jaishri and Avijit Dutt, these were tips for you to become a successful professional. Now, coming to the questions, I have a lot of questions with me. I'm going to come to the questions. If you can, Professor Jethwaney, this is from Rupali Patidar. She is asking what skills are required for the industries after COVID-19 pandemic?
Skills for the industry?
Yeah.
Advertising?
For advertising. Obviously, we are only talking about advertising.
Okay. COVID, I really don't know when it's going to go away. It's going to be there for some time. So it's very important to recognize your adversary and get on with the business. But the skills which you require, not even just for the industry, for everybody else, is that people are really, to my mind, going to rate people, industries, and the people who matter on how they behaved. Were they empathetic? So the empathy is going to be the word. People are going to judge, big corporates and big people who had the right to take decision. The others ever, hygiene, sanitation, all, you're going to be very, very sensitive about it. And I think the whole lifestyle is going to change, and probably advertising also has to take a cue from that. The two things which come to mind right now.
Absolutely. And in terms of skills, they need to understand the digital world far better than the conventional media. That goes without saying. Yeah. Absolutely. Please feel free. I may ask questions to either of you, but feel free to add, because we are guiding students. If you feel that any point has been left out, please feel free to add. Coming to you, Avijit, this is a question from Adi Manav. He is again asking the same question: how digital media has changed landscape on advertising? But he is asking, is traditional media like newspaper losing its importance?
Newspaper definitely is currently, as you're well aware. People have been banning the newspaper from building societies. Newspapers are looked at as the petri dish of infection and so on. The digital world becomes that much more important in giving out, disseminating information, content creation, and content exhibition. The clients today can advertise, but they cannot shoot a film. So on television, you either have to have something that has been shot long ago, or try and it. But in digital medium, it becomes that much simpler to use an old ad, to make changes, and to put it out. The digital medium becomes that much more pressing, and you need to engage with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Professor Jethwaney, this is a question from Shruti Mathur. What should we look before adopting a graduation program in advertising? Does choice of college make a difference in career opportunities?
It does. I think I said it in my discourse. It's important to go to the right college and see the faculty who are teaching there, the leadership, because these courses are as good as the faculty and the infrastructure. And these courses are not very old, independent courses in advertising and PR or mass communication, undergrad or postgrad level. So it's very important to go to institutes of higher learning. Instead, to my mind, if you're going to a university, then you must see what kind of infrastructure is available there, and what kind of faculty. Because I've seen in universities, there's always a dearth of faculty. So you find one faculty teaching things which are absolutely apart. Somebody will be teaching media planning as well as creativity also. Maybe journalism also, and also public relations. So be very careful about the institute. The choice is very important. It's very important.
Okay. Now, this is
newer the better it is, because they understand the requirement, absolutely. They understand the challenge. So you have to do a bit.
Absolutely. Now there is a Kulraj Randhawa. I think I am better equipped to answer this. This is, how is UPS is different from other established media colleges? Well, Kulraj, let me tell you that you just have a visit to our website. You will find out that our advisory board comprises the who is who of the media industry. Our board of studies includes veterans from the field of academics and industry, and UPS has a brand reputation. We have 100% placement. Even in this COVID era, we were able to achieve 85%, placements, which is something very critical. Placements are finally you are joining a course for placement, and that's what we assure you of. And yes, we are going to have, you have already seen, the who is who in all our webinars of the industry are going to be there. The integrated approach, wherein our focus is on the modern aspect, on technology, on content, and we have our own school of design, our own school of computer sciences, our own school of health communication, our own school of management. So we believe in a convergent, integrated approach. Our media school has a language lab where we focus on language skills, on articulation. We have an English program. We have a course era tie-up wherein you get exposure to international courses. That is something, very few universities offer. And we have a 25%, free ship concession for girl students. So you have all the reasons to come to UPS. Yes, coming to other questions, Saurabh Mahajan, is it true that fresh college graduates in advertising, you don't get good starting salary packages as compared to other graduate programs? Avijit, would you like to respond to this?
I don't think so to start with. But of course, it is illogical to believe that you are already going to start off with a very high salary. But your growth is going to be far more in terms of the money that you take home in advertising.
Yes.
So you have to bide your time, be patient, keep growing, and keep getting better and better.
Yes. Another question is from Namrita Kumari. Are colleges and universities equipped to train young professionals in new and ever-evolving media? Well, yes, Namrita, at least at UPS, we are. You can, again, as I said, that you can visit our, social media handles. You can visit our website. You would know that, we provide state-of-the-art cutting skill technology. But would you like to add anything? Professor Jethwaney, Namrita is asking, are colleges and universities equipped to train?
Yes, I think you're the right person to answer. You answered it.
Now,
can they take a virtual trip to your UPS? Have you put some video or something on social media? If you have not done it, you can do that now.
Yes.
Now, this is a question, Avijit, maybe you can answer. This is from Supreet Kaur. This is, how does user-generated content platforms like TikTok and social media influencers change dynamics of advertising? Supreet Kaur has asked. Avijit?
Well, there are brands which are now using endorsements of people who have large followings, hoping and believing can be persuaded to think positively for the brand. So independently generated, user-generated content, UGC, is a vital tool, definitely. But I don't think it's giving great mileage as of now, but it is definitely used as an edge to have a certain addition to your needs.
Yes. Professor Jethwaney, you would like to add?
I would say there are some ethical dimensions to this, maybe a gullible person. Now there's nobody's as gullible, but then when these influencers influence you to buy a certain brand, the people who follow them may not know that these guys might be paid for endorsing your brand. That is the ethical dimension to that. And I have a problem with that. You have to be upfront. If you want to sell a product, don't use these means, but then that's how digital media is all about.
Yes. Okay. There are a couple of questions which I think that I should be answering. Can the youth graduates take advertising course with core subjects? Vikram Singh Rajput. Absolutely. If you have to join one of the courses, then of course we would be. If you want to specialize in advertising, we will be certainly giving you the option of specializing in advertising. If you want to specialize in PR, we will be giving you that option towards the 5th and 6th semesters. Yes, Supreet Kaur, does UPS prepare students to become social media influencers and leveraging social media? Obviously, that's what our digital marketing course is going to be about. Yes. What are the kind of factors to exposure? Is there a provision of summer internship with Media House during the course? Certainly, yes. It's part of all our courses. That's there, Ritu. Then we have an observation, Professor Jethwaney from Neha Singh. She says that excellent point. In addition, the organizational structure of a firm is intrinsic to its ability to deal with a crisis. If the top management has the PR or corporate communication person's ear directly, it curtails the crisis better. This is Neha Singh Batra. She is an assistant professor at Guru Gobind Singh IPU.
All right, I agree with that.
Yeah. Neha Singh also asks, what is the future of advertising, considering even the IAA is advertising people to advertise? It's ironical considering the world has gone digital.
No, this is a huge industry. Almost 1 lakh crores of rupees, a huge industry. It's not going to die away, not at all. It's only going to do better in future. It's just a matter of, and that too, I think it's little short-sightedness on their part. They could have made use of this time in doing something on COVID itself, just caring for the people. I find that unfortunately, because of lockdown, production facilities were off. So they lost the opportunity to come out some out-of-box ideas. Except for one ad, I think, which came from McCann Worldwide Group, was teaching children, that black pepper ad, which is running in all over the world, in all the countries. I haven't seen any out-of-box ideas from all those global agencies who are in India. They could have done it. They lost the opportunity. But still, COVID is still there. They should. And the clients have to support them, because advertising agencies can only give ideas. The money has to come from the corporate sector. So we should be addressing this to the big Ambanis, Adanis, and big FMCG companies, not to lose heart, and they must invest in advertising.
Yes. Avijit, there is a question from Girwani Jain. She's asking, as we are planning for digital marketing nowadays, it has a good scope, but having a trouble that can we get nice placements in it?
Yeah.
Digital marketing.
Definitely. Not just in agencies, but also in the other side, that is the platforms that are doing the advertising are constantly looking for good people. The search for good people continues across the line. Even at this time, with COVID and offices shut, for the company that I am consulting and working with, MoMagic, we've been hiring people, and this has been continuing right through, and hiring people at pretty high levels.
And just to add to what Avijit said,
yes, please.
Digital media, there are more jobs in digital media than elsewhere, and there are better pay masters, because content writing is a very important area, and there's so many digital companies looking for young guys with good writing skills and expression skills. There's no dearth of jobs in digital media.
Yes. Now this is from another faculty. This maybe Professor Jethwaney, since you have done so much of research, maybe this is Dr. Ramesh Rawat. He is asking what kind of challenges in front of digital advertisements and other type of advertisement medium to capture the rural customer.
Rural customers.
Yeah. How to attract them, in terms of why can digital marketing do the digital advertisements? Can it do that? I mean, what are the challenges?
If I remember correctly the numbers, I think rural India is also want to e-marketing, Flipkart, Amazon. A lot of people in the rural market now, the smartphones have become cheaper than they were 5-6 years ago or 10 years ago. So there's a lot of work going on. A lot of people are, using their digital devices to do e-marketing. They're doing it already. They're already doing it.
If I may add to it,
Yes.
The smartphone is the obvious entry point, but 55% of the population is on feature phones. And feature phones are notorious for being gray walls that you cannot track. However, there are innovations that have occurred in the last 6 months, and feature phones can be tracked. Post-COVID, what has also happened is because of the demands of the budgets, people are also moving towards the feature phone. Those who have experienced the convenience of a phone don't want to forget it. So they end up buying the feature phone, and the feature phone becomes a vital way of communicating with the bottom of the pyramid. That 55% that we talked about is really the bottom of the pyramid. They are the people who are the new market, who are still expanding the market, and they come from the vast amounts of them come from the rural markets. So we've just been talking to major client, HUL, about doing advertising in feature phones and how to get the tracking mechanism going along with an independent tracking authority like Nielsen.
Yes, I'm getting some queries on the Facebook also. Yes, Professor.
With huge migrant population, which comes out term as migrant labor, almost 8 crore people. They have smartphones when they're in the city because they get the second and third end. They get 1,000 or 2,000 rupees. They are the ones who are doing lot of e-commerce. They are buying things via Flipkart and all. There's a huge surge in that. But they're the guys not only buying for themselves. When they go back home, they take those stuff with them back home in rural India.
Right.
So there's huge part.
Yes, I'm seeing a couple of questions on the Facebook also. And this is from Mansi Gera. Again, the same overriding concern, Professor. That's, ma'am, can you please tell what is the employment opportunity in advertising post-COVID? That seems to be the big concern.
Look, you guys are going to get into the graduation now. Going to be 3 years when you pass out. We would have vaccine already in a year's time. There'll be no COVID when you pass out. So don't worry. Don't think too much about future. No past, no future. Think of today. If you're getting the opportunity today, there'll be no COVID. I'm sure there'll be no COVID in 24 or 23. Certainly not. We're not expecting it to be there. So just
May I add to that? Sorry.
Yeah.
May I add to that?
Yes.
Yes.
Like Professor Suresh said, there was 85% placement in a year that is going through these kind of disasters.
Yes.
Imagine what it could be for you. My God, the world lies ahead of you. And finally, one Sanskrit saying, which is a favorite of mine, Karmanyeshu adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachin. Do what is yours. I mean, what can you manage? Put in your efforts. Don't think of the result. The result will look after itself.
And also, I feel that academics is a very important, line where the youngsters can go. So after you do your graduation, do your post-graduation, do your PhD and get into academics. It's a hugely, I would say successful area. You need a lot of good teachers, and which we have huge dearth of.
Absolutely.
Think about
Absolutely.
that also. Don't think that you start job after just doing your graduation. You should be there in the university for about 7-8 years and be a PhD, and you have no idea how much the professors get these years. A huge amount of money. It's most paying.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we have other questions also, but then it's more or less a repetition of the same questions mostly. But and also we are running out of time, and it has been really, I would say, very great of both of you to have spared your precious time to counsel the younger generation on this very important aspect of their career. From the questions, it's very clear that they had many relevant concerns which today both of you were able to address, and that is what has been our effort at UPS to talk about the different dimensions of media, from print media to digital media to public relations to television anchoring. We have been trying to address the concerns, the queries, because these days physical counseling is not there. These days those counseling which used to take place in different educational institutions are not there. So through these webinars, we are trying to reach out to the students, them some kind of guidance with the help of industry stalwarts such as yourself. And we would be in this watch out this space for more such webinars in the coming days. And once again, thank you all for participating and making it yes, Gaurav Garg has said that students can do internship with their alma mater to get hands-on experience. Absolutely. Everybody needs advertising and public relations, including educational institutions. They can provide hands-on, kind of experience. Yes. So on that note, once again, a big thank you to Professor Jethwaney and Mr. Avijit Dutt. It's been really a great session. I'm sure one of the most memorable webinars I've had. You have cleared so many doubts. So many, even faculty members from different universities participated in today's webinar, and so many students benefited from it. Thank you once again, and thank you, Team UPS, Simranjeet, Siddharth, and everyone for facilitating this. So, my dear students, look forward to having some of you at UPS School of Modern Media, and you can always, these are the stalwarts who are going to be there to guide you, to help you, in this industry. And once again, please keep a tab on this space. We will be having more programs to guide you, to help you select a career of your choice. On that note, thank you so much. Thank you once again. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
Bye, Avijit. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care, Jaishri.